G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the Ho.229. So first things first, today's skin is made by Mirror58 and is available for download from live.warthunder.com. It's an extremely well detailed fantasy night fighter skin, which I was trialling during this particular match for a future video that I'm looking at making. As always, links to the skin available in the video description. So in patch 1.47, the Ho.229 received a number of changes. First and foremost was an engine replacement. The old engines were thrown out and we received a new set of HES011 engines. These increased the thrust out to roughly 12 kilonewtons. Now, why this engine change did not directly increase top speed, what it did do is increase energy retention in flight as well as acceleration. The Ho.229 is now capable of reaching its top speed of 850 km an hour at 26,000 feet. Furthermore, out of a sustained dive into level flight, the Horton is actually able to retain around about 830 to 840 km an hour indefinitely at sea level. These engine changes also improve climb rate of the 229. It can now maintain a 3,937 feet a minute climb rate, fully sustained. However, if you're willing to climb more aggressively and sacrifice a little bit of speed, you can push that out to almost 4,500 feet a minute. Getting out to 16,000 feet off the runway now is really only a 3 or 4 minutes of your time, in comparison to the past flight model, which would take almost 10. Now, other changes made to the Ho.229 in patch 1.47 was the G-loading on the wings. The wings can now take full elevation maneuvers up to 510 km an hour stock, and up to 560 km an hour fully upgraded. When passing 10 or 11 Gs beyond these speeds, you will run the risk of snapping the wings off as you used to with the old flight model. However, the third and final change that was made to the aircraft is compression was added to the control surfaces at high speeds and during high G maneuvers. They will now lock up. Now, why this compression does slightly limit the aircraft's ability to pull some of the insane turns that it used to be capable of, although not by a whole lot. What it does do is it means the onset of G-forces during high elevation turns is now much slower. It's much more controlled. This is still an aircraft that requires a good, skilled and experienced pilot in order to fly it at full optimal level. However, it is now much more forgiving on those that are trying to learn it. Simply moving the mouse cursor won't instantly snap 10 Gs onto your plane and immediately break off the wings without you having a chance to control it at all. The combination of these changes have turned the Horton into an absolute monster, but it does come at a cost. The battle rating on the aircraft has been increased to 6.7, which means it can now find itself in up to 7.7 battle rating matches. So this includes aircraft like the Banshee, the F-80C, the Vampire, the Venom. These are all planes that you can now fight. And when I was creating this video, I was actually looking for one of these fights. I wanted to show you how the Horton performs against these aircraft. Unfortunately, I had nothing but the worst luck. The first round that I took it out that I encountered jets, I had join in progress activated, and I barely made it off the runway on Berlin before I was intercepted and destroyed by 2 sea meteors that had flown at tree level directly at the German runway. So of course I disabled join in progress, tried again, managed to get up to 16,000 feet, hit the tab button to have a look at my team scores and realised the only enemy aircraft that was still alive was a B-29, and it was being set upon by 7 German aircraft. So that one was a wash too. Came back the third time, tried it again, same map, got to 16,000 feet, hit tab and realised my entire team had died and not a single enemy aircraft had been shot down. Dropped altitude and found out I got exactly the match that I was after. It was a full team of Venoms, Vampires, Banshees and a couple of F-80Cs. Now, why the Ho.229's new flight model is excellent, engaging 10 enemy jets simultaneously is a little bit beyond it. So I thought I would fix the problem and invite a couple of people to come along for a fly, and this match I'm joined by them. This is Ash007 in his Ho.229 and Coke Spray in his Ho.229. We set ourselves up as a team of 3, all good now, we'll go in and see if we can get into a fight, and we ran into nothing but props for 10 matches. Some days you just can't win. So as you can see from the match so far in the background, I took the Horton out to around about 16,000 feet before I began my dive in looking for enemy aircraft. The enemy team has been found and located in the centre of the map. They mostly consist of Bearcats, Tempest 2s, the odd Griffin Spitfire Mark 22, Mark 24 mixed amongst them. And for the most part, as you can see, these planes are doing the smart thing in this situation. They're grouped up tightly trying to cover one another. Considering that most Ho.229 pilots do have a tendency to try and turn with props because the plane is actually capable of doing it, it's a smart tactic. Unfortunately for them in this case, I have no need to or intention of turn fighting with a bunch of props at sub 10,000 feet. The 229 now has excellent speed, energy retention and acceleration for an aircraft of its tier, so I fully intend to be using those. Lining up my first target for a boom, 3.57 out, F8F, 2.5 closing fast. I'm over the red line of the aircraft, but I'm well within control providing I'm gentle. Take the lead on shots, and a nice clean kill. Continue through, line up next target, done seal, 4.5 out, continue using speed. I'm slightly sub 800 kilometers an hour, but I'll be able to punch it back over 800 with very little issue. Now, I didn't bother turning back on that Tempest 2, as with this much speed built up, it would have been an absolute waste of energy to do so. Also, we have another 229 over here that's actually trapped at low altitude at low energy with 2 Bearcats on his tail, and he's actually in a lot of trouble, so I'm going to try and rescue him. Lining up Boric, 1987. He turns out hard, smart move. At this speed, if I tried to follow, I would break my wings, so I'll just continue through, reline up on done seal. Keep the aircraft going as fast as I possibly can. Now the 229 in trouble is manoeuvring hard, trying to avoid the guns of this F8F1. He seems to be doing a decent job of it, or he's definitely taking a hit. Done seal goes directly vertical. If I pull up too hard, I'll break the wings. That's fine. I have all the energy in the world. I'll just point the plane straight up. Disappear straight into the clouds right above them, and as I drop down below 510 kilometers an hour, I'll begin to roll the plane over and reinitiate a dive. Now from this position, they actually should not be able to see me in the clouds. I can only see them because they're engaged with the 229 at low altitude, so I'm about to blast out of the clouds again at nearly 600 kilometers an hour, diving fast. Line up the target, take the lead, second kill. Don't bother turning out, just keep the speed up and boom out of the area. Back to level flight, 830 kilometers an hour and still accelerating. And for those of you who have seen my past Ho.229 videos will notice that my flight style is pretty much exactly the same as it was in the old flight model. In fact, in this area, absolutely nothing has changed. All that happened is the modifications to the aircraft's engines and the tolerances on the wings being increased actually improved that flight style. It made it much easier to perform. In the past, maneuvering the aircraft in this manner was very much like balancing on the tip of a razor. At any moment, you could push the plane just a millimeter too far and the wings would fall off. Now, I'm able to do this with absolute control and pretty much zero stress. Now, unfortunately, the 229 that I was trying to defend did get taken down, so looks like I'm going to have to avenge him. Bearcat cuts in hard underneath. I again wouldn't be able to follow at the speeds that I'm at, in excess of 800 kilometers an hour. High speed maneuvers are not recommended in the 229. So just back into the clouds again, waiting for the speed to drop down sub 550, and then I'll roll over and just re-engage the target. There is another Bearcat coming in, however. He is at altitude. I need to get him down to the deck or kill him, so switching targets over. Now it looks like he was pushing for a head-on pass. No thank you. Point the nose down slightly. As he passes overhead, diving in on me, I'll pull the plane straight up into the vertical. Follow through into an extremely tight loop. Time to put the Horton's maneuverability into work. Engage the combat flaps. Almost bring the guns into position fast enough, but his turn speed's almost as fast as mine. I get enough for a split-second burst and then quickly get the Horton out of the way. It looked like he was actually going to try and go for a ram then. 90 degrees over, type wingtip turn, aileron roll through, and bring the guns back around on the target. However, he spotted Ash 007 at low altitude. Ash was making a move to engage the second Bearcat, so I better drop in as fast as I can and clear his tail. He actually looks like he's a little low on energy at the moment. I also believe that Ash's Horton is actually stock. Now, I accidentally activate the wrong button here. I was supposed to be activating air brakes, and I dropped the flaps and tore off my left flap, so don't I feel like an idiot right now. Thankfully, at this point, I don't really need the flaps anymore. The flaps are great to allow the aircraft to maneuver with some of the more maneuverable props that are available in the game. However, you only need to do that when they're at about 10,000 feet and you're trying to get them to drop energy and fall to low altitudes. Now with both Bearcats on the deck, I'm back to boom and zoom. Ash has fallen in the 6 of one of the Bearcats, so I'm making a move on the second one. He's making a turn around to fall into Ash's tail. Big mistake, fireballed, and that will be my third kill. Now it was at this point that I actually realised something about the Ho.229's flight model, and I'm actually glad that I ripped off a flap now to find it out. Do not rip the flaps off this aircraft. Under any circumstances, do not rip the flaps off. Once the flaps were torn off the aircraft, I had trouble breaking 600 kilometers an hour in this plane. Upon approaching 600 kilometers an hour, I found that I had a lot of pull to the left-hand side, so it looks like with the flaps torn off, a significant amount of drag is added to the airframe. This drag has effectively ruined my ability to fight as I normally would, and at this point, even though this guy is the last plane left on his team, I'm strongly considering returning to base. The only reason I'm not is Ash is still combat effective, so instead I'm going to try and work myself as bait to set up a shot for him. Bearcat goes vertical, fire for the lead, but it feels like the aircraft's constantly trying to pull the guns to the left-hand side at the moment, which is making shooting an absolute nightmare. Thankfully, he loses all his energy going vertical like that. Ash brings it straight around and puts one straight through the middle of him. And that's the end of the match. So, results for the match. First place for the team with 3 kills, Fighter Rescuer X2, Avenger, Professional X2, Shadow Strike Streak X2, Winstreak X3, Teamwork, People's Republic of China Randall and the Best Squad, 58,460 Silver Lions and 3,856 research points on a premium account. So, not a bad match at all, just not exactly what I was looking for, but serviceable enough to show you the new Horton Flight model in action. Now, the big question that I'm going to get asked out of this one is, what do I think of the battle rating of the Horton 229 at 6.7? Do I think it needs to go up? What are my opinions on it? Honestly, I'm not sure. This is a real tough one, as the performance of the Horton is based entirely upon the skill of the pilot. An absolute ace pilot that knows the Horton inside and out, that knows everything that the airframe is capable of, its exact limits and exactly how to use it, will be able to use the Horton in effective combat against 7.7 fighters like the Vampires, the Venoms, the Banshees, and so on. But it's in exactly the same manner that a 262 pilot who is an absolute ace will crush Sabres in a career match. Honestly, I think the 229 is a plane that is trapped by the spread availability that is currently available within War Thunder. I think there needs to be a larger spread if you want to fix this plane's balance entirely. At the moment, I think its BR is probably as good as it's going to get. I don't disagree with the fact that it fights 7.7 aircraft. I think that should happen, but I don't think it should only be fighting them. Unfortunately, this is becoming a bit of a running theme with aircraft in War Thunder, so long as the maximum battle rating in the game is only 9, and really, let's be honest here, only one plane is at battle rating 9, the rest are at between 8.7 and down to 1. Why that is the maximum spread available in BRs, problems like the 229 are going to exist, where on a maximum down tier, at its current BR, the plane feels borderline overpowered. But if it was to be tiered up and then receive a maximum up tier, it would be broken. I expect it's a problem we're going to see a lot of in the future, as more aircraft are added to War Thunder but the BR system is not expanded in order to accommodate them. This is going to be the same story amongst many aircraft in the future. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.